time. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so that we can hop into the presentation and get ready to view those videos. So today, we are exploring iNaturalist, a fantastic citizen science app that you can use to identify many, many, many different organisms in your backyards and around your neighborhoods. So to introduce the app, I have our climate fellow, our climate intern, Erin, from the Wild Center, has prepared a short video to tell you a little bit about the application and how to download it and how to do your first steps with it. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and open up the video here. Oh, I did not go ahead and share sound yet, so let me make sure I do that. Share computer sound. So you should all be able to hear Erin as she speaks. And let's go.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's digital drop-in program. My name is Erin and I am the Climate Communications Fellow for the Wild Center's Youth Climate Program. So in addition to all of the really excellent programming that the Wild Center does around live animals and natural history, it's also home to us, the Youth Climate Program, where our mission is to empower, convene, and engage young people all over the world to take action on climate change in their schools and in their communities. So climate change is huge and can be really overwhelming to think about, especially these days when we have so much on our minds. But I've got some really good news for you. There are lots of things that you, yes you, can do any day right from home to take action on climate change. One of these things is that you can participate in citizen science projects. Citizen science means people like you and me heading out into the world and making observations and submitting data for other scientists to use. This is especially helpful because when it comes to something as big as climate change, the more data from more places over more time that scientists have, the better, which is where we come in by making and sharing our own observations and data about what's around us. There are countless different citizen science projects ranging everywhere from counting birds to making observations about clouds. But today I want to focus on one of my favorite citizen science projects called iNaturalist. In a nutshell, iNaturalist encourages people all over the world to take photos of any and all living things that they can find and report when and where it was seen, from mammals and birds to plants and flowers and trees to fungus and literally everything in between. iNaturalist wants to know what's around you. This is because scientists care a lot about biodiversity, or all the different things all over the world. And information about even the most common species can help us to better understand what's happening in the natural world, including the effects of climate change. So you see, the lives of many plants and animals revolve around changes in temperature. For example, lots of birds will migrate or travel away from cold northern places in the winter to warmer places down south, and they'll come back up north once things warm up. And something that a lot of you might be seeing right now is that lots of flowers reemerge and bloom in the spring once it gets a little bit warmer. When lots of people make observations about these kinds of things all around the world, and over time, scientists can get a better picture of when things are happening in the natural world, and if they might be shifting due to climate change. Are the birds leaving later than usual? Are the flowers blooming sooner? We can only find out if we have the data, and that's what you can help provide. So if there are so many different citizen science projects out there, why is iNaturalist such a great one to be a part of? Well, one of the best things about it is that all observations matter. Whether you have found a really cool salamander in the forest, or you're submitting photos of some sunny dandelions in your backyard, everything is important. And in addition to that, absolutely anyone can contribute. Some citizen science projects may require special training or certain types of equipment, but all you need to be a part of iNaturalist is a camera and access to the internet. You don't even need to be an expert in species identification. You can submit observations of things that you have no idea what they are. All you have to do is upload the photo, and iNaturalist technology can actually help make a guess, or you can send it off and one of the thousands of other iNaturalist participants can help identify it for you. For example, just a few weeks ago, I took a photo of some flowers that are in my parents' garden, and I had no idea what they were. I was totally stumped. But I uploaded the photo, iNaturalist made some guesses, and I was able to figure out that it's Siberian squill, which is a plant I've never even heard of, so that's kind of cool. iNaturalist helps you to both be a part of citizen science and learn all at once, which you really can't beat that. So by now you're probably thinking, Erin, this sounds so cool. How do I get involved? All you need to do is download the iNaturalist app on your smartphone, and it's available for all devices. Or if you prefer, you can take photos on a different camera and upload them to the website on your computer later on. Here's a quick how-to video from iNaturalist itself to show you how to make and submit your very first observation.
Okay, so you've installed the iNaturalist app and created an account. Time to get outside and record your first observation. Here's how to do it. Any living thing, like a plant, animal, or fungus, can be an observation on iNaturalist. Once you find something you'd like to record, just tap Observe and take a photo. You can review your picture, then hit Next if it looks good. To identify it, hit What did you see? If you have an internet connection, iNaturalist will suggest 10 visually similar species and often a common ancestor. You can choose one of those or search for a species name. On this observation details screen, you can add more photos of the same organism or write a note. The date, time, and location have been automatically added. You can also change the geoprivacy of the observation, mark whether it's captive or cultivated, or add it to a project. Once you're finished, just hit Share and your observation will be uploaded for everyone to see and identify. That's it. Keep on exploring and sharing.
And that's all there is to it. You can contribute as much or as little as you'd like. And if you're interested, there's also a really great companion app called Seek that outlines specific challenges and gives you badges for finding different kinds of plants and animals. So you are officially ready to get out there and be a part of citizen science. I'll be joining Michael in just a minute to answer any questions that you might have about iNaturalist or citizen science in general. But after that, I challenge you to go out and find at least one thing that you think is really cool around your house and upload your observation to iNaturalist. Then your photo will become a part of thousands of other observations contributing to our understanding of the world. So have fun, get out there, and thanks again for tuning in today.
Thanks, Erin. So that was a great video introducing iNaturalist. I wanted to check. Oh, looks like questions are all good for now. So I mentioned earlier that we had some snow this weekend here in the Adirondacks, and it put a little damper on me getting outside and using iNaturalist to collect observations on my own. I was able to identify a couple plants, but luckily some of our museum fellows came in with some really fantastic videos. Well, they didn't come into the Wild Center, they sent in some really fantastic videos looking at some organisms that they found in their backyards. So in just a minute here, I have a video from our fellow Morgan, who is living in Maine right now, in her story and her journey with iNaturalist. And then Chyna has also sent in a video showcasing her exploration of her backyard in Texas. So you may notice a lot of the videos here look a little bit greener than it does up here in northern New York, but showcases how iNaturalist is so flexible and you can utilize it all throughout the world and add to that community that Erin was talking about. Okay, so let's go ahead.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's digital drop-in program. My name is Erin and I am the climate
to Morgan's video. And we'll cue that up here in a second. Okay, here's Morgan's journey.
Hello, I'm Morgan and I'm a Museum Fellow for the Wild Center. I love using iNaturalist to both help me keep track of my finds as well as helping me identify species I'm unfamiliar with. Currently I'm in Maine and luckily there's a large amphibian population in the pond right behind me outside of my doorstep. I've been uploading my finds to iNaturalist and I made some pretty cool discoveries. During my herping adventures, I've been able to find quite a few salamanders, the majority of them being the eastern redback salamander. I thought they were pretty easy to identify because of the distinct red line on the middle of their back. I found another salamander that lacked this distinct red line, and therefore I thought it wasn't an eastern redback salamander and was just another species. When uploading it to iNaturalist, I listed it as woodland salamanders, giving it the most specific identification I could with my own knowledge. That's one of the things I love about iNaturalist. Even if you don't know the species of the organism, you can always list it as a more generalized classification. Soon after I uploaded my picture, comments started flowing in, identifying it as an eastern redback salamander. I thought they must be wrong, given the lack of red stripe. But after further investigation, I found that eastern redbacks can actually occur in two color phases. A redback with a red-orange stripe, which is the phase I was familiar with, and a leadback, a gray to black coloration, which matches exactly the salamander that I found. iNaturalist never fails to help me learn something new, even when I think I already know a lot about a certain species.
Okay, that was Morgan, again, sharing her journey in Maine, looking at salamanders as amphibians emerge here in the spring. And now the next video is from Chyna, down from her backyard in Texas. So here we go.
Hi, it's Chyna, a fellow at the Wild Center, and today I'm going to give you guys a tour of my backyard in Texas using the iNaturalist app. So first we're going to look at this tree that's right in the front of my backyard. And what's so interesting about this tree is that there's kind of these wings on the bark. And so I'm going to try and figure out what it is using my app. So I'm just going to snap a picture. Let's see, what did I see? It's an elm. Visually similar, seen nearby, a winged elm. And that is exactly what I'm looking at, with the same leaf shape and winged bark. So, we have a winged elm back in my backyard. Isn't that cool? Okay, so here's a plant that I am not quite familiar with. It's really tall and spindly, and its leaves are soft and just kind of have like a little fluff to them. So I'm gonna see if iNaturalist can help me out here. Dwarf plantain. Oh, that looks promising. Oh yeah, because if we look at the little blooms here, they are quite similar to this image. Oof, look at that. Let's see if the other pictures. Oh yeah, and then it has the same cottony leaves as this one does. I think we have a match. I've never actually seen this plant before, so this is exciting. The dwarf plantain. So, there were not any toads in the usual spots that I find them, so I thought I would come inside and show you a toad that I know I can always find. So this is the enclosure of my pet toad, Maldwin. So we're gonna give iNaturalist a try and see if they can identify what species he is. Maldwin knows he was born to be a star, but he is a little shy, so I just washed my hands before I'm going to pick him up, because we know that amphibian skin is very sensitive. So here's my handsome boy, all dark with his camouflage, so I'm just going to snap. Oh, he has dirt on his head, poor buddy. So, got a lovely picture of him. I'm going to put him back, and let's see how it goes. Okay, what did I see? North American toad. That is true. He is a North American species of toad. And I did not actually find him where I live, so iNaturalist is coming up with results which are nearby, which is understandable. But he's actually a species which is not native to Texas, called a southern toad. That's what he is. And so I'm very happy that iNaturalist came up with this, and if I had cross-referenced all of these, looked at specific details, I would have known that this is what species he is. So I hope this inspired you guys to go find your own interesting experiences in your own yards.
Thank you, Chyna. Let's go ahead and it's up to you all now for the challenge. So you just saw a little bit about how to use iNaturalist and some examples of journeys with it, with a couple of our fellows. So our challenge for the day, or the week if you choose, is to get outside, download iNaturalist, and try to take some pictures of things that you see. Make sure to be safe. If it is an animal, you don't necessarily want to go up really close to it, but you can try it out with some plants because they're unlikely to run away from you. Our challenge is to try to identify a varied range of organisms. So try for a couple animals if you can, if you can get a shot from a distance, and then try with some plants as well, things like trees or shrubs or whatever you can find around your home. And if you need some help with that and you need the steps for that, you can head to our website, thewildcenter.org/digital learning, where you can find all the resources associated with these digital learning programs. So for today, May 12th, we're doing Get Outside with iNaturalist. You can scroll on down here. The videos will be posted here. If you forgot some of the steps or want a little bit of information about how to utilize iNaturalist, it will be posted here later today. Down here, we have the iNaturalist challenge and a link to the iNaturalist website, so you can get information directly from iNaturalist as they teach you about the app. And then the challenge is a downloadable sheet, or you could just pull it up and read it and remember it as you go outside. The challenge is to use iNaturalist or Seek. Head outside and take some pictures of animals, and then when you're done, you can color this awesome Wild Center badge to represent your step into becoming a citizen or community scientist. Down at the bottom, to make you think about thinking further or to encourage you to think a little bit more deeply and represent what you find in drawing or in writing, we have these iNaturalist Nature Journal pages that give you plenty of space to add your extra information about what you've seen. I find that as a scientist, art and being creative and drawing what you see is always really important. And I know it helped me a lot as I took classes like biology of fishes and otherwise to really try to figure out what exactly I'm seeing about each individual organism to really represent that on paper. And it helped me remember. And that's why we have this here where you could draw or write as you choose. Okay, so let's hop back here. And again, you can head to iNaturalist website. Let's see what questions we have at the moment. I have another thing that I'm happy to show if there are some more questions about it. Let's see. Cool. Would anybody like to see, we just looked at iNaturalist, but we did mention the companion app, Seek. Would anybody care to see Seek in action? If you would, go ahead and raise your virtual hand on the page here, and we'll see if there are a bunch of people that would like to see it. We'll go on a mini field trip safari here in my room. Okay, it looks like we have about half or so. Seek is a little bit different than iNaturalist. iNaturalist, it gives you more information, and then you can use that yourself as Chyna was doing to try to figure out exactly in what species of toad she was looking at or what species of elm she was looking at. With Seek, it tends to give you a little bit, it does a lot in the app itself to try to figure out what you're looking at. So it goes step by step as we move from family downwards to species of what you could be seeing. So bear with me a second, I have to hop over to a second screen and we'll boot up that app for you. So stand by. Okay, so I'm going to spotlight this video here. So you should be seeing some taxidermy down there. If you see that, go ahead and I guess you can't give me a thumbs up, but you can raise your hand so I know that you can see it. Great, awesome. Okay, I'm going to turn off my video so that you're just seeing the text, or I'll leave my video on. Either way, you'll hear my audio coming through here, but see it over there. So we're going to mobile science, and I'm going to share my screen here. So you can see step by step as we go through this Seek app. Okay, so right now, we're on the home page here on the handy iPad, going to hit Seek, and Seek looks a little bit different than Junior Naturalist, or not Junior Naturalist, than iNaturalist. It has information about possible organisms that you could see around you. So I live in Saranac Lake, and it's picking up that location for me, and shows a lot of different species that are typically seen in this area along the top here. The cool thing I think about Seek is that it gives you little badges. So if you look about on the bottom half of this, you can take pictures of different things that you see in your neighborhood. And as you identify more, you'll get more and more badges, which are kind of fun little achievements. So I'm going to, again, turn this over and click that little camera icon on the bottom. As I click that, it's going to take us to a camera view where we can see the wonderful taxidermy that we have that I've brought home with me from the Wild Center. So I have an animal that will stay nice and still for us. Right now, it's giving us the class, it moved all the way up to genus of anoles, which is a type of lizard. That is not correct. So we're seeing a little bit of the algorithms at play here, trying to figure out what we're looking at. So I'm going to get up nice and close to this animal here. It's not going to run away, which is nice. And we'll see if it can figure this out. So we'll start off. It says that we're on the class. Those little green dots tell you how sure it is. So we move quickly from class to rodents to now the family of this animal. I'll turn the camera a little bit, see if we can get some more of it. Right now, it thinks it's a squirrel, which is correct. We know this is a species of squirrel, so now it's not as sure. We moved it back. So there's a lot of interplay moving it forward and backwards. So I would recommend using this not necessarily for an animal, because it's unlikely to stay still and you're likely to stress it out unless you have a taxidermy. And this would be most useful for something like a plant. Oh, we had it for a second there. Did you all see it flashing? So now it has identified, or Seek has identified that this species is, had pine squirrels and it had American red squirrel for a second there, which is exactly what this is. I'm trying to get close to the face, that eye, and the white around the eye is something that tells us pretty clearly, it's a good characteristic of American red squirrels. So there we go. It's identified it to the species. It's blinking at me, tells me that I should take a picture. I will take a picture, and that will be recorded in the app as my achievement. I have another animal here. There's a fisher here. This one I tried to play with it earlier, and it wasn't as able to identify. But you can just kind of see how it thinks based on what it can observe of this organism here. It will try to get it as specific as it can with it. So we know it's a carnivore, utilizing clues like its teeth. Be closer, maybe if we get some identification from the face here, it'll help us figure it out a little bit more. Sometimes it helps to step back and get the whole animal. But this is one that works really, really well on trees and plants, that you can get images of different components. So the buds, the branches, the trunk and the bark are really great features to help you figure out what something is. I'm going to go ahead and stop broadcasting here on the iPad and close out of that and hop back over to my other screen here. And we're going to have Erin join us, and we'll have a little bit of time for questions. So let's go ahead and stop spotlighting that video. See if Erin can turn on her camera, and we'll go ahead and answer some questions for you. Why is it still? There we go. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being patient with that. So there are a couple questions in the Q&A. Let's see if we have anybody that has anything that we can answer for you.
So hi everyone, I'm Erin. Laura looks like she has a really great question that has to do with Morgan and Chyna showed us that when you take a picture, it gives you 10 guesses of whatever plant or animal it might be. And it does always give you 10, but if you're not sure, that's totally okay. You can, there's an option for you to compare photos, so you can have your photo and bring up some of its guesses right next to it. And if it's a plant, you can look really carefully at the leaf shape or maybe some of the coloring. With an animal, you can look at markings next to each other. But if you're not sure, that's totally okay. Morgan showed on her video when she was taking a photo of the salamander that she wasn't sure what kind of salamander it was, and she just called it a woodland species, and that was totally fine. Because again, one of the coolest things about iNaturalist is that when you upload it, everyone else who uses iNaturalist can see the photos that you're putting up. And some of the people on iNaturalist are scientists and people who are experts on plants and animals, and they will look at your photo, and just like it showed with Morgan, they'll make a guess for you. So do your best. If all you can decide is that it's a plant, that's totally fine, and people on iNaturalist will help you out with that. So no need to know for sure. And will it work on worms? Yes, it will totally work on worms. It will work on any plant, animal, living thing, anything at all.
Awesome.
Just a reminder, when someone had, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Erin brought up a really, really good point with using iNaturalist and the fact that scientists that have a lot more background information than some of us have in some of these different organisms. They're experts in insects, they're experts in birds and plants of various species and types that hop into iNaturalist, and they can do basically what's called peer reviewing. So they have some certification that they are very knowledgeable and have identified a lot of organisms of a specific type, and they can hop in and look at your observations and essentially give you that thumbs up. That's, you identified that correctly, and here's some evidence for it. So the more that you get people to identify your images as the same animal or same plant, the more peer reviewed it becomes, and the more accepted it is that, yes, that what I was looking at was a red squirrel, as opposed to just I say that and Seek says it. You have more people helping to figure it out together as a collective, as a community.
Yeah, and a couple people have asked about using iNaturalist on like their hamster or a plant that they have inside your house, and you can totally do that. iNaturalist is super smart and knows all kinds of species, including ones that are commonly captive or kept in homes. But it's important that if you are going to take photos of a plant or an animal that's in your house, I think it was Chyna showed us that there's an option when you scroll down and you're making your observation to say that it's captive or cultivated, which basically just means that it's not out in the wild. It doesn't show up there naturally. So it's important that you click that so that all the scientists of the world don't think that you have a hamster running around your neighborhood or a crazy Dr. Seuss tree growing in your backyard. But you can still definitely use it to make those observations.
Awesome. And that's a great way to practice using the app. For example, I used it with the taxidermy here because it was unlikely to run away from me. But if you can take pictures of something at home or utilize it actively with a plant or some other organism that you have in your house, that is a great way to get those first steps and figure out how the app works without maybe missing out on observing an animal that you may scare off as you try to take a picture of it in the wild. We can stick around for a couple more minutes if anybody has questions. Otherwise, let's see, I'll go do a nice slow lead out, see if there are any last questions. Okay. Oh, what happened? We have a question from Maria about what happens if you do it on something that's not alive. So you'd want to use the same designation that Erin was mentioning. You can take a picture. If you find it outside, you could say that you did find it in nature. It's still an organism that likely would live in your neighborhood or in your community. But if you use it on something, in my case, of a taxidermy or maybe a part of an animal that I've found somewhere, you want to say that it's in either a captive or cultivated or in human care, essentially, just so that people aren't thinking that this organism is maybe from some coastal area is now here in Saranac Lake. It's not likely that I would find a sea star or otherwise. Not that I don't think I have a sea star of any sort, but either way, you don't necessarily want to tag it here, and then it could be confusing in the overall community of science with that.
And going along with that, iNaturalist is great, like Michael said, for plants because they don't move around. Animals can be really hard to snap pictures of, but animals leave behind all kinds of things that do make really great pictures, like scat and feathers and markings on trees, and you can totally take photos of that and upload them and get some idea of what animal may have been there at some point.
Great. I think with that said, we'll let you all head outside and get exploring. Spotlight my video here. So we'll let you all get outside, get exploring. I hope you have a lot of fun with iNaturalist and Seek. I think they're both amazing apps, and I look forward to using them much more in the spring here as we get more and more diverse plant life around my yard and some more animals. But have a wonderful and safe afternoon, and we'll see you here next in 2 days. See you on Thursday for another wonderful app. We'll be exploring Globe Observer and looking a little more upward to the sky rather than down along the terrestrial animals and plants that we have here. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you later.